Hello, my name is Maria Winter, and I chose the Communication Privacy Management Theory to explore. In today's world, information can be shared all across the globe in just a split second, so privacy and our understanding of it is more important now than ever before. The thesis of my paper stated that the Communication Privacy Management Theory explores how people facilitate their personal information and determine privacy boundaries within their relationships, which is especially important in our ever expanding world of digital communication and the modern challenges that stem from it. So, we are going to explore the intellectual roots of the theory as well as look at some recent research that has been done regarding CPM. We're also going to evaluate the theory based on some specific criteria and apply it to real world experiences in order to see how it is relevant to our daily lives. The communication privacy management theory is defined by Oxford's Research Encyclopedia of Social Work as an evidence-based theory that accordingly provides a dependable understanding of how decisions are made to disclose and protect private information. CPM was developed in 1991 by Sandra Petronio and has 5 key principles. The first one is that everybody has the right to ownership of their private information. The next is that people control their privacy and make decisions based on personal privacy rules, which these rules can be different for everybody and can be based on different experiences, different genders, different heritage, everything. So they could be different for each person. The third theory is that private information, once it's shared with another individual, that individual becomes a co-owner of that information and also becomes responsible for safeguarding it. The fourth principle builds off this idea and says that co-owners need to determine mutually agreed upon boundaries about sharing this information. And lastly, the last principle says that turbulence and conflict will occur if these boundaries are crossed or if they're not clearly stated to begin with. So when looking into the roots of this theory, I found that Sandra Petronio published a work called The Road to Developing the Communication Privacy Management Theory, Narrative and Process, Please Stand By. And she published this work in 2004. And in it, she explained that during her grad years, she discovered that there was a lack of information regarding the concept of social and personal disclosure. And this kind of became her passion. And she was heavily influenced by the work of Erwin Altman and Dalmas Taylor and their social penetration theory, which showed how relationships develop and become more connected and intimate as time goes on. And obviously, there's an aspect of disclosure in getting closer with somebody and forming a deeper connection. However, this CPM was also influenced by the communicative social behavioral perspective, which states that you can improve overall communication by addressing social and structural barriers. Now, deep diving into some research that has been done regarding CPM. In a study called Privacy Management Among Social Media Natives, there was a quote that I thought was very interesting, and it said, CPM is a useful tool to frame the study of privacy management in social media use, given the dynamic and multifaceted nature of disclosure within social media. Social media platforms can be considered collective information management systems where connected individuals co-own private information. So in this study, they found that social media platforms utilize different ways to form privacy boundaries within individuals. And this can be done through a public versus private profile setting, settings where you can choose if other people can repost what you originally put out into the world, and various things like that. And as we all know, social media definitely impacts mental health, and the National Alliance on Mental Illness reported that in 2019, about 55% of US adults did not seek treatment for their mental illness for a fear of lack of privacy or confidentiality. And when we look through this through the lens of CPM, we can see that it's not really this fear of just those concepts, but it's the fear of the boundary turbulence that will occur if those boundaries get crossed. So if I'm afraid to share some information with somebody based on, I think they're going to share it with somebody else, and that's not what we mutually agreed upon, that's something that happens and is directly stated in the communication privacy management theory. So the criteria that we're going to apply to this theory is we ask ourselves, is it applicable? And as we've kind of been detailing throughout this whole presentation, we can see that yes, it is very applicable. It helps us understand which information we decide to disclose, and that's very important in all the relationships that we have. We also ask ourselves, is it useful? And that question is also yes. It helps us have a general understanding of why people do what they do. The next criteria is a theory testable? Because good theories are always able to have research done about them and proven correct or incorrect. So research has been done on how people react to privacy breaches, who people feel comfortable sharing with, and why, and what these people choose to disclose. We must also ask ourselves, will this theory inspire future work? And since technology and privacy will always be evolving, that answer is also yes. Just as the social penetration theory affected and influenced Petronio in her work, CPM is bound to influence somebody's creation of a theory in the future, where they talk about communication in ways that we don't even know exist yet. And finally, our last point is consistency. All these points build on each other. You can really see that in the guidelines of the theory and the key principles. So for a real-life example, we can see this in the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal of 2018, where millions of people's data was harvested and used in political campaigns against them, and they had no idea their data was being used this way. And as we can see, this is another example of boundary turbulence. People expected one thing of these two companies, and that was completely betrayed. And by applying CPM, we can see why it was such a vast outrage. And in conclusion, the communication privacy management theory seeks to explore how people facilitate their personal information and how they determine their specific privacy boundaries in their different relationships throughout their life. And in today's world, where communication has changed drastically and is mostly online, a knowledge of privacy is so important. And by examining the roots of CPM, looking at some research done about social media and mental health, examining criteria, and finally applying it to real-world examples, we found that CPM is highly relevant to our lives today. And by applying the communication privacy management theory in our daily lives, we can strengthen our own communication skills, create healthier relationships, and inspire society to become more privacy conscious and respectful of individual privacy boundaries.